Another thing that I do want to bring up. So this is I know we don't have too much time left for you, but this could be the last thing that we can talk about.
Also,
But
yeah.
I would say this is pretty relevant in terms of what we're talking about just right now. So this comes to us from Abounding in the Comics. This is from the Alpha Core #1. So this is this is close. This is very this strikes close to home for a lot of people who are really into ISOM and the Rippaverse and stuff like that, right? So YouTuber appears to defame Chuck Dixon as an anti-Semite in the lead up to Rippaverse's Alpha Core release. So this is the stuff you were talking about, right, Mike?
Yeah, man. It's that thing of, once again, Chuck Dixon has been a legend in the comic book community for forever, and has been celebrated and praised for all of his work, and then all of a sudden he does something that they don't agree, like that he does something politically or says something that like one side of the aisle doesn't agree with, and now all of a sudden he's like a terrible person. Like now all of a sudden, like he's a bad guy. We can't, I can't believe he fell off and stuff. And you have to wonder at some point how many people fall off before maybe you start to realize that the world doesn't work like you think it does, where everybody agrees with you and thinks the same fucking way you think, and that people actually have differences of opinions, and maybe some of those opinions, maybe a lot more of those opinions you'd like to admit, are actually correct. That's the issue here. You're like, how many people have we seen? Well, Chuck Dixon fell off because I'm like, why? How has he been this influential, legendary comic book writer, and now all of a sudden he's fallen off? What? He just like gets stung by a bee one day and his whole personality changed? This is who Chuck Dixon has always been. He's always been the same guy, and he's always been a great writer, and he's, so yeah, this shit is like, I don't know, whatever they can find to be offended by. And here's the thing, I like to throw this around a lot about anti-Semitism. Like, I don't know how many people remember this. Like, not that long ago, our girl Gal Gadot, Wonder Woman herself, was like, "Hey, I stand with Israel," and they're like, "This bitch, she hates people, she hates Arabs, and she hates those people, and she's terrible, and how can she do this? And oh God, and people in Israel are the worst." That's anti-Semitic, dumb fox. Like, that's literally, you're saying, hey, I don't like those people over in this country because I don't like what they do, and I'm like, why wouldn't? She's literally from that country. It doesn't make any sense. That it's ridiculous to be like, a person from their country doesn't want to shouldn't stand with their people because I don't fucking know, people in Hollywood don't agree with it. Like, there's always some shit that they're like always on, and it's always a bunch of hypocrisy, and it's always like just lent at, I'm just gonna throw an accusation at somebody, an ist or an ism or a phobe at somebody, and that's how I'm going to dismiss them as a whole, instead of actually looking at it and going, maybe I don't agree with their point and I don't think it's great, but like, I can't just discount Chuck Dixon because he said something I don't agree with. Like, that's fucking ridiculous. Like, it's the stupidest thing in the world. But once again, they'll just keep doing it because they believe that they're in the right, and it doesn't matter how many people echo something or like say something different or oppose them or have different opinions about them. It doesn't matter how smart those people are, how influential those people are, how successful those people are. They're like, fuck it, no, they're wrong, I'm the right, I'm in the right, I have to be. So
it's like they feel like they're on the right side of history or some bullshit like that. Like, they're trying to like white knight people. It's like, oh hey, I'm trying to help you, like it's really bad. But let's see. Gingerbeard with the $5 says, I bet $1,000 these freaks couldn't tell me what a Semite is.
Yeah.
You're probably right. All right, so this is what the person said. So on X, the YouTuber wrote, if you're someone who values the well-being of comics communities, I implore you to read. Rippaverse Comics will soon publish a comic by former industry pro, creator of Bane and Tim Drake, Chuck Dixon. It gets disturbing from there. Yeah, so he did like a 1 out of 3 thing. So like, he basically, is it because the fact that Chuck Dixon is working with Eric July? Is that the only reason?
I think it's a little bit more. I know that these people, some of their frustration is because Chuck wrote a book that was this book here, where it was supposed to be like, they call it like a QAnon book or whatever, and it's supposed to like, they're like, oh, QAnon is this crazy like radical right-wing ideology or whatever and stuff. And I'm like, okay, so he wrote something that had like, that you don't agree with. That doesn't mean that all of a sudden he's a terrible person or that he's a wrong person. Like, now, if Chuck Dixon goes off and writes a comic where he's like, oh, I created a superhero called the White Master, and he goes around shooting black people all the time. Okay, maybe Chuck's not, but he didn't do that. He's just writing comic books, and he wrote comic books from an ideological standpoint that you don't agree with. But, like, look what they fucking did to the Punisher. Oh, we don't like how they're using the Punisher logo. And, we're making the Punisher a little softer and a little, it's like, everything has to fit their ideology. Everything has to fit the way that they see things. And that creates echo chambers, which is the worst thing you can do possible. But then they'll just turn around and accuse everybody on the other side of working in an echo chamber. I'm like, no, maybe Chuck Dixon just liked this idea and wanted to roll with it. And why would you all of a sudden have a problem with him and discredit him as a writer for it? But that's the thing. They have to just, if they can slap ist or an ism or a foe, people will just see that and immediately go, oh, Chuck Dixon's an anti-Semite. Oh, I shouldn't listen to him anymore. Oh, I shouldn't have anything to do with him anymore. It's like, this is ridiculous, man.
Yeah. You see, Hayden with the 5 says, these people use no logic, have no idea what's going on, and don't care. They're revolutionary to ideals that their mob disagree with. Yep. I think that's like one part of like the definition for what I consider woke. So whatever, who are we attacking today? Who's bad? Who's bad? Besides Orange Man, who's bad today? Right. Yeah. And going back to what you said about the Punisher thing. So in a way, I do have inside knowledge, but that it was a couple years ago that Marvel was like, hey, we should completely remove ourselves from. So I work on a Marvel game. It's like they basically told us, let's not put Punisher on anything anymore.
Wow.
They're like, and so my producer comes up and says, yeah, Marvel doesn't want to put Punisher on anything anymore. And we're like, why? Yeah, there was a school shooting, and the fact that the cops and like military people are using the Punisher skull as their call sign, we don't want to push that agenda. So let's make sure we don't put anything in, like whenever we use like a military trait or like a skill trait or something like that you can potentially use Punisher, let's not use him anymore. It's because of his skull. So, and then of course they came out with that dumbass skull with the weird devil horns thing because he's a part of the Hand now, and then now completely sunsetted him. Now it's like a shield agent that's the new Punisher.
Yeah,
which is stupid.
Like you got rid of a guy who's supposed to be like this, like rogue, like anti-establishment guy that's like out doing his own thing, and replaced him with an establishment guy. He works for fucking Shield. Like we've seen Shield like be super fucking corrupt. Like, and I'm like, wow. Yeah. And the attitude of like, well, we don't, cops and people in law enforcement and stuff and military people use this. Surprise. Like a guy that's pro gun and is like a guy that like fights bad guys with his bare hands and like shoots bad guys and stuff like that. Like is kind of rewarded and applauded by people that are in professions where they maybe have to shoot people.
Yeah.
Surprise, surprise, but like, I don't know, man. That's it's silly. It's silly to be like, oh, this is problematic. It's like, well, it's only problematic if you see it as problematic. Like he was the same character that he's always been. If all of a sudden, once again, like I said, Punisher just starts going like, I'm gonna shoot all the Mexicans or whatever. You're like, okay, like there's something gone wrong. Like, but guess what? You can just write it differently. But here's the thing: they have to like remove all history of it. That's the thing. I use this term a lot. It's revisionist history. How can we make Chuck Dixon always problematic so that way we can just dismiss him from history and move on to something else? Yeah.
Yeah. So let's go ahead and read this. I don't know what number 2 is, but number 3 says from the same dude: QAnon absolutely promotes bigotry against Jewish people, being an updated version of the anti-Semitic blood libel, as well as the LGBTQ people. It's also directly influenced several acts of domestic terrorism, including the J6 insurrection. This violates Kindle's policy. Jesus. Yeah, I think these people just want whatever their faction is or whatever, because this is, in my opinion, this is the religion. This is a dogma. This is the kind of cult mindset behavior that these people live in, and it's whatever that's not on their side, even just a little bit, you have to agree, like you're against them. Even like someone like Russell Brand, who is particularly originally from the left. Now people consider him right-wing QAnon, even though he's not. right?
Yeah.
So it's just whatever these people believe in is just okay. If you're not with us, you're against us, 100%.
Yeah. And remember, I mean, the label alt-right, which we don't see it as much anymore because they used it so much that it stopped having any fucking meaning whatsoever. But like, it was like alt-right. Oh, they're alt-right. Oh, they're alt-right. Now they're not even alt-right anymore. Now they're just straight up conservatives, or now they're QAnon like believers and stuff. Whatever they can do to like push these ideas and agendas on stuff. You know, and the fact is, like, some of these guys, like, they know more about QAnon stuff than the people they're accusing of being part of QAnon. Like, they have the like crazy fucking theories out there. They're like, well, QAnon believes blah blah blah. I'm like, how do you know? Like, how do you know that this is what they believe? Where are you actively searching this out to figure out, oh, this is what QAnon believes? Because, like, the thing is, your guys are, like, reading into shit about this. And we watched a very small microcosm of this with what happened with Rippa. I mean, it's still happening, but a lot less now, where people were like, yo, he's you know, funded by Blaze and Glenn Beck, and oh, you know, he faked his numbers, and the conspiracy theories about Rippa were crazy. The warehouse, it's fake. And then it was like, okay, well, he proved the warehouse was real. Well, that warehouse is unnecessary. Who needs a warehouse to house their comic books? You know, it's just always one thing after another. And at the end of the day, my question always is, like, if you could prove that this person was a good person, even if you don't agree with their ideology or whatever, if you could prove that none of the stuff that you believe about them is correct, would you accept them? Would you be like, all right, cool, maybe I don't agree and I'll move on? No, that doesn't matter. It has to be a justification for everything that they believe. Everybody, like you said, if they're not on our side 100%, they're not on our side at all. You know, and that's a terrible, terrible dogmatic way of looking at things. And it's funny because even in like the Christian religion, which they consider like super intolerant all the time, like literally the creator of all of it, Jesus, the foundation of that religion, said, if they're not against us, then they're for us. Like, don't just go after people because they don't believe like you believe, because you may find if they're not fighting against you, they're actually fighting for you. Or they'll one day be able to see the way you see things. Like, that's a very tolerant way of looking at it. Whereas they're like, hey, like, every time somebody comes out with a new number or a new letter in the LGBTQ 2+ IAW whatever spectrum, and you don't agree with it, or you have a difference of opinion, there's something wrong with you. You're obviously a phobe and you hate people. Or you go, I don't think that this thing should be a thing that we believe in. And they go, what? You hate everybody that exists in this like category of people? Get out of here. You know, like, it doesn't make any sense. You know, like, they just support whatever the new thing is to support, whether it makes any sense or not. You know, so yeah, man, it's just ridiculous. Yeah.
What about you? What about you, Grae? Like, how do you feel about all of this stuff?
Yeah, it's a mix of attributes of people in general. For me, it's like, one is, as the other guys mentioned, it's like, it's the attitude that you just don't agree on one topic, immediately you should invalidate you entirely, and all your opinions suddenly become invalid, or you as a person becomes invalid. And it's also a mix of, I remember Asmongold saying this in one of his videos, like, people would, it's human nature for people to not, they would rather double down on their opinion rather than to admit that they are wrong.
Yep.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's a mix of those two. It's like, people don't know how to have a constructive argument anymore. It's like, just because we don't agree in this one particular topic or this particular issue, we can still be friends, man. we can still be friends. Like, yeah, we can just agree to disagree. It's like, it's so understated nowadays. Like, for all you know, there's another take that you kind of agree with. Then you can mutually agree that this issue is wrong and this should be approached this way. It's kind of like my Starfield video, right? I tweeted it out. It's like, despite me being in the middle, it's like, I can see the two sides of it. It's like, I can see the people why Az was outraged about pronoun function, and I can see the gamer side of function, like Actman. It's like, what? It's so trivial. It's only a 3-second feature. I can see why, because, like, given this is Project Girl, we cover pop culture a lot. we can see that it's starting to fester into the video game industry. And the people who generally just cover the gaming side, they only, it's just a minor pronoun feature, but they don't know what's coming. So these people are just going to keep pushing and pushing for more of these features. And then eventually it's going to start permeating into the plot, and it's going to destroy the writing entirely. Then I got one comment from there. It's like, no, you're not really in the middle. You're not really in the middle ground, because you didn't even mention people who like the feature. But hey, guess what? I never mentioned as in that video, did I? I never mentioned his name. So I'm kind of like the guy in the middle. And I even made a follow-up post about that. I tried the game for myself. I opened the feature, I opened character creation, and I chose body type 1, because I'm pretty sure that was the male body archetype. When I got to the final part, I saw the pronoun. But it never told me, please choose your pronoun before you can proceed. I just sweep by it. So it's not really forced. I do not consider that to be a forced feature. So they were right on that aspect. So yeah, I even defended the side of the gamer side. So it's okay to have a more complicated opinion, a more gray area opinion. And I this is kind of veering off a little bit, because I encountered this with a Twitch streamer I know. So, I kind of mentioned to him that, because Phil, I was watching your Resident Evil 4 stream when you were streaming it, the remake. I mentioned to him that Ada Wong had the voice actress she could have done a better job.
Yes, she could have.
He got so triggered by that for some reason. It's like, oh no, she's actually pretty good. She's actually pretty fine. Then he kind of laughed at me. The only reason why he had that opinion is because a large YouTuber mentioned it. I didn't even know it was a big thing on YouTube, for one. And he kind of used there's this big Resident Evil YouTuber named Sphere, I believe, something like that, something along that line. I kind of got disappointed with his take on that, because like, did you know that she used to be a porn star? It's like, what does that have to do with her saying that Ada Wong could have done a better job? But you shouldn't be using that as a means to invalidate her opinion. So, people like, it's like the guy said, it's like they will use whatever means necessary to shoot down a person, kind of blowing it out of proportion. But it's really on a case-by-case basis. It's okay to have more convoluted discussion about it, because it's not a simple topic in some cases. And at the end of it all, you can still be friends. You don't have to completely cancel or invalidate this person, because for all you know, like, you can bring this person to your side if you just be constructive about it and explain why that is wrong or if it's right. And if that person disagrees, then maybe another issue will be fine. You don't have to cancel it this way. It's kind of disgusting and malicious, to say the least.
Yeah,
100%. Yeah, man. And you brought up a really good point though, like that subtlety, nuance. Like my buddy Amanda, Daywalker Comedy, she has a sketch on her channel called like The Death of Nuance, and it's just like all about that, because the reality is most people, if you spend enough time with them, you will find that you like something about that person. There are very few people in the world that you'll meet that you're like, I fucking hate this person and I want nothing to do with them. They exist, I guess, but for the most part, like, the problem is if conversation actually happens, and this is constantly said, and they say this a lot, specifically I would say like on the more like extreme left side of things, and this is proven in data. This was on Twitter before Elon even bought it. People on the left typically only follow people on the left, and people on the right are typically more centrist or even left. They will follow a wide variety of people, and that's the difference. It's like, if you have a lot of different opinions and then you still come to a certain conclusion, well, then you've made a more informed opinion. But if all you ever do are getting constant like feedback loops and echo chamber, and they'll accuse like people on the right of being an echo chamber, like they try to dismiss people. I'm like, yeah, but you block everybody that you don't like or don't disagree with. Like, I rarely block people unless I absolutely have to, or they're a porn bot. And even with that, it's like, you know, it really depends on what kind of porn bot they are.
Yeah,
but like,
if it's good, you know.
Yeah, you just got to make sure that you can see the face before you see the ass to make sure it's a girl, you know. But like, you know, that's the thing. If you really actually have conversations about stuff, you'll find that you actually really agree with all people that you don't necessarily think you would agree with. And if somebody would actually sit down and like watch Az's video. They'll probably find points that they actually do agree with if they're willing to actually accept that side of things. But also you can watch another video and maybe find points that you do agree with on the other side if that person's being reasonable. But a lot of times it's that there isn't any they're not being reasonable. There you go. I get it. REK. Shout out to REK, by the way. That's our that's one of the editors we have for Epicverse. He's a good dude.
Awesome.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man. So yeah, but it's just one of those things. Nuance and subtlety is really important because that's how you create conversations and that's how you build bridges with people. And guess what? That's how you make communities that support each other. Because if everybody's just waiting around to stab somebody in the back because they're waiting for the wrong accusation to drop, you'll never actually get anywhere. You can't build anything on that. All you can do is take what already exists and try to manipulate it to look the way you want it to. And that's what we're seeing a lot. And it absolutely is creeping into the gaming industry. And it's a real shame because for all the ridiculous things that are in like a game like Baldur's Gate 3, because there are a lot of ridiculous things in that game, the quality of that game is astounding. There's a lot of quality in that game. Like it you know, and we've seen games that have a lot of quality in them that just focus on trying to give people good stuff. How many times has like FromSoft Studios like gotten criticized for not including certain things in their games or not making their game, not having easy modes in their games? So they're like, I don't give a fuck about none of that. I'm just going to make my game. Like, just get off of it. But then you also see the consequence of a studio doing what they did with the reboot of Saints Row. And like, yeah, they're just trying to pay out their student debts. They're just, you know, and these guys are going to steal a car. And then one character's like, are we stealing an electric car? Your carbon footprint follows you wherever you go. And then they wonder why nobody played their fucking game. But not only that, but it was glitchy and buggy. Like, so you didn't even, you didn't even put together a really well done product that had garbage in it. You put out garbage on top of garbage and expected people just to buy it. Yeah. Like, and that doesn't work. That's not how that works. But we're also seeing that in the entertainment industry. People, garbage writing, garbage cinematography, garbage stunts, garbage acting, garbage stunt work, garbage, all of it. It's just not good. None of it has any quality to it. It just feels all generic and garbage. And they put it out and they get mad at everybody and yell at the audience and call them whatever names they can and claim that they're getting review bombed and that, well, these YouTubers are the ones that made people not want to watch our movies. I'm like, no. Your movies are the ones that made people not want to watch your movie. Because whenever a movie now comes out that's good, word of mouth makes it blow up.
Yep.
Every time. Look at Guardians 3. I was I'm like, I haven't hardly watched any of the Marvel stuff. And I get why people maybe don't like Guardians. I'm kind of more of a fan. I watched it. I liked it. I had a good time with it. And I was like, yo, I would recommend this to go people. And guess what? It did a lot better than a lot of other movies have been doing for them. Because people were like, yo, go see this. It actually has some quality in it. And that's, you know, that's the world we live in now. Word of mouth and trust in the individual kind of outweighs a studio just being like, hey, we're putting out a movie with a $300 million budget on it. You're like, okay, that doesn't mean anything to me anymore. Like, I used to trust you guys, but I can't anymore because you're putting out garbage.
Thanks for checking out this segment of the Project Eggroll podcast. If you like what we do here, please like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and you will know next time when we go live. We do go live every Saturday at 8 p.m. Once again, we are just getting started. Tons of more video to come. Thanks, and we'll see you guys next time.